Hello everyone, welcome to the Green Man for another list video, and here I'm going to be ranking or deciding on my top 10 sci-fi films of the 2010s. A decade where we saw the reintroduction of Star Wars franchise after Disney bought the rights to Lucasfilm. We saw obviously also Star Trek films and introduction of new TV series. Saw recycling of old ideas but sometimes with modern spins on them as technology changes. Obviously, the introduction of things like smartphones into our lives had a bit of an impact as well, I suspect, into sci-fi films of the 2010s. And this list, I think, is hopefully going to cover some of what you would expect, but also maybe there's a couple in here which you may not have seen yet, or may be curious about watching. See, a actor's recommendations. So this list, I'm going to go through this list and try to explain my choices as best I can for you. And I'm going to begin with number 10 without further ado. With number 10, Spectral, came out 2016, stars Emily Mortimer and James Badge Dale. Now this film may be the most perhaps unexpected film to appear on this list because it didn't come out, it wasn't a widely released thing, it was just released on Netflix. Also, not many people probably or critics would rate it that highly, but personally for me I really enjoyed Spectral. Great action sequences, thought the story was good enough, but really enjoyed the sci-fi ideas in here surrounding the spectral beings, how they came about and how we learn more and more about them as the film goes on, and with certain sequences we learn more. And I like the way that the science deals with the this fictional element here of this film. Really clever stuff, I think, personally. Thoroughly enjoyed the performances and some pretty moving scenes in this film as well. I thought this was well delivered, well directed, an underrated film of the 2010s for me, Spectral 2016. Number 9 for me, Predestination, came out in 2014, stars Ethan Hawke and Sarah Snook. And, what a pairing this was. Really, really good performances in this film. A sort of time travel film with a pretty big twist in it. If you like your time travel films, definitely check this one out. I think it's really, really good. Love the bar scene in the early part of the film. Love how it just develops. And, one you may have to rewatch to completely appreciate, I think, with how they build up the story and the twist towards the end. Number 8 on my list is Edge of Tomorrow, starring Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt. A big blockbuster, this one, but one I really enjoyed, and it's probably one of my favourite Tom Cruise films as well. Really liked the time loop idea in this, but moreover I liked the way they dealt with it. We've seen time loops done so much before in sci-fi films and TV series. I always think of one of my favourite ever sci-fi TV episodes of time loops is Window of Opportunity, Stargate SG-1. This one though, The Edge of Tomorrow, takes that idea, and I like the way it is just handled, but also how we learn about how the time loop has originated is really, really interesting in this one, and just love the comic elements to this. And I think Tom Cruise does a good job with his character. Emily Blunt, I think, is also really, really good in her role in this film alongside Cruise, and how she performs as well. Number 7 on my list is an Alex Garland film, and for me this is a classic from the 2010s, Ex Machina, starring Domhnall Gleeson, Oscar Isaac and Alicia Vikander. And this little ensemble cast, this is an amazing film which treats or tests the idea of artificial intelligence possibly having independent thought. And in it we see Domhnall Gleeson's character testing this artificial intelligence unit played by Alicia Vikander, and we gradually sort of learn more and more about it as the film goes on, but we also are trying to work out, this Oscar Isaac character as well and what his motivations are, and really interesting how these characters play off each other, and what we see develop as this film goes on is interesting. I would say this is an unmissable one. If you've not seen Ex Machina before, definitely check it out. Really good one. Now my next film, coming in at number 6, is another Alex Garland film, and that's Annihilation from 2018. I appreciate, maybe slightly controversial, that this is higher than Ex Machina even is on my list, but I just really, really loved Annihilation. I've seen it more than I've seen Ex Machina in rewatches and revisits. I just think there's something about it that I find fascinating. I think, being a bit of a sucker for visuals and sound, that I really enjoyed Annihilation's use of visuals and sound, in particular its kind of epic concept, its ideas surrounding the shimmer, but also the really, really impressive horror sequences in Annihilation were the thing that really hooked me in. I thought there were some spectacular horror sequences in this film, lots of tension, suspense, and an ending which you won't forget. As confusing and bewildering as the ending might be, I think this is what I like in my sci-fi, something which really challenges you as a viewer to think a bit more outside, perhaps of, standard classic typical sci-fi tropes. Think a bit more about what could happen in this interesting shimmer. That was Annihilation at number 6. Number 5 now, Rogue One, a Star Wars story, the only Star Wars film in this list, a bit of a spoiler, but it's the only Star Wars film in this list. Now, I just think out of everything that came out in the 2010s in the Star Wars franchise, for me this one was quite by far and away the best. And I will try to explain that because there's a lot of passionate Star Wars fans out there who are welcome to disagree with me, but I will just try to explain why I love Rogue One so much. First of all, the performances are outstanding, good cast, brilliant supporting cast, some amazing characters like the Donnie Yen Blind Jedi character with a really good catchy, and what you want from Star Wars films is good catchy quotes like the Force, I'm one with the Force and the Force is with me, and all of that stuff, fantastic. And I liked the positioning of this film, how they set it before A New Hope, and how they dealt faithfully with what came later as well. There weren't, for me, many plot inconsistencies. I thought it was better at that than other films we've seen in the Star Wars franchise recently, and it was just a real spectacle, really good stuff. Again, good production, visuals, cinematography. So much to enjoy from Rogue One. Had to include it on my list, and it is my favourite from the franchise in the 2010s. And my next on my list is at number 4, Arrival 2016, starring Amy Adams and Jeremy Renner. Is it Jeremy Renner or Jeremy Renner? I always get this wrong. I think it's Jeremy Renner. I'm going to have to check that quickly. Jeremy Renner. Really, really good film. Arrival from 2016. Loved Amy Adams' performance in this as well. What I really enjoyed was that this treated was like, an alien invasion movie. You think, oh no, not another alien invasion film. We've seen enough of those. But this was with a bit of a twist in that this emphasised the language aspects of, how there might be communication troubles when aliens visit Earth. So for me, it felt much more like a real interpretation of the problems there might be if aliens did invade, less like the kind of just aggressors of Independence Day and those kind of films. I liked how this film kind of gave this trope a big twist. But also it's a very personable film, very relatable with the characters and their stories, and tied in these elements beautifully. And also the politics element as well gave it that slightly heavier, had the story some weight as well, I thought, as the film developed and went through its story. Really love Arrival. That's number 4. We're getting on to my absolute favourites now. Number 3, one which is really well received by critics and has many fans, I believe, Interstellar, that came out in 2014. Really grand scale film driven by a lot of theoretical physics as well, and some really interesting ideas. Obviously the concept and time dilation is presented to us quite spectacularly in this film, and the impact that can have, I thought, was dealt with incredibly well. It is a spectacle, it's big and showy, this film, obviously huge, big budget, obviously, I think, for this film, and visually, therefore, there's some amazing scenes. Again, very moving. If you're less patient, maybe this film might be so much for you. It's a very lengthy film, coming in about 2 hours and 50 minutes, but it's an amazing film all the same, and it justifies its length, I think, pretty much, this film, Interstellar. Number 2, one of my other absolute favourites from the 2010s, could not be left off this list for its sheer audacity, I think, and its delving into a really ambitious idea, and that is Inception from 2010. Obviously, Leonardo DiCaprio starring, absolutely brilliant film, and delivers on this idea of going into dreams, intercepting dreams, planting an idea within them to influence the outcome of people, then in their own conscious lives. Really amazing film, and so many great sequences. Again, the cinematography in this is stunning. Obviously now it's 11 years old, but I still watched this recently. It was just as amazing as it was when I first saw it. The sort of cityscapes and how they're manoeuvring and how it's all dreamlike, and the props used, and all the cues for the dreams and everything, just fascinating stuff. The layers of dreaming idea as well, really, and how you penetrate each layer of those dreams to reach someone in the, yeah, it's just amazing stuff, and really challenging the kind of thing that, modern sci-fi, I think, should always strive to be, which is to try to, come up with ideas which hadn't really been done or done very well before. And I can't think of many like Inception. For originality, scores top points. Had to have this very high up on my list, and it comes in at number 2. Number one, what's my all-time favourite film? Now this actually might be, I am a bit worried about saying this as my number 1, but because, to be honest, it is my all-time favourite film that I've rewatched the most out of all these sci-fi films, right, in the 2010s, and I absolutely love it. It's a sequel as well, which is probably even more controversial, so it's, not the original. I adore the original as well when I saw it in the year 2000. It is Blade Runner 2049, which came out in 2017. Now, how to explain this? It just blew me away at the cinema, so that memory is fresh in my mind that I loved the film when I came out of the cinema. It exceeded my expectations, went in with low expectations, to be honest. Wasn't expecting anything superb, but got that and more, and just the scenes in this film are fantastic. Again, quite a slow-paced film, so if you're not a fan of slow pacing, you may disagree with my choice of this film. But I love the cinematography in this movie by Roger Deakins. Good performances as well. Ryan Gosling does I think, a good job. And understated, as a replicant. It's just, a lot to enjoy and digest. There are scenes that kind of just left me completely inspired by some of their abstractness and the ideas. I think Ana de Armas is brilliant in this film as this hologram character, and there are just so many great scenes towards the end. You've got that incredible sea battle scene, which is just amazing. And for me, I'm going to say it, I think it does pretty good justice to the original film, which is one of my probably all-time top 5 films of all time, is Blade Runner. But Blade Runner 2049, I just thought did an outstanding job in almost every aspect. Sure, it's a lengthy film, so if you're less into the lengthy films, you may not be as into it as I am, but it is my choice of number 1. And it's a personal list, this, ultimately, so that bit of subjectivity is always going to come in, right? So if you disagree with me, that's fine. I really, really would love to see, if you're passing by the channel, your own films. What were your favourite top 10 films of the 2010s? Feel free to put them in the comments, or suggest to me films I've missed. I'm bound to have missed many, many films that came out in the 2010s, and I will watch them perhaps post this video to see what indeed I missed. Thanks very much all for watching. Hope to see you next time. Take care, everybody.